Today we're going to look at the Chord Snip add-on for Google Sheets. This is an add-on that allows you to visualize float data between 2 points in the system in the sidebar of a sheet. So first off, we'll load the add-in, and it tries to create a chart in the sidebar of whatever the active sheet is. We don't have any data in our active sheet, so it's giving us a little bit of a hint as to what the data needs to look like. It can even generate some test data for you, so we'll do that right now. So it's generated some test data and then created the chart. Data for a chord chart looks like this. It's from and to and some volume. For the purposes of this add-in, these things around the outside are called the nodes, and these things in the inside are called the links. And the links and the nodes are proportional to the amount of volume of whatever it is that we're counting that's flowing between the 2 points. The visualization is interactive, so I can put a cursor over any one of these nodes, and here I can see the data flowing to and from Pluto, and the color scheme used is the color of the receiving node. But let's create some data from scratch. So typically these are called source, target, and volume, but you can call them pretty much anything you like, as I'm doing here. It'll detect from the context what you mean. So we'll put some countries here, and we'll put some export volumes or something, and then China back to France. So that's 40. Now you notice as I'm typing, the chart is being drawn on the right there. So there's a few bits of data. So it's very effective at showing this kind of flows, bidirectional flows between items in a system. So we'll get back to our main data now. We've got a bit more to play with and take a look at some of the settings. So the appearance of the chart, first thing is the diameter, which would be changing the size of the chart in the preview. Unlikely you'd want to do that, but you might change that to 200. But with the chart, and we see it's smaller. The first thing we'll look at is the links. So that's the links between the nodes. So you'll see there's a bunch of color schemes it uses. By default it uses the Google one, but we can use a different one. There's a different scheme than before. So I think you get the picture. Now opacity is essentially transparency of the color, so the lower that is, the lighter the color is. So you might want to make that, if you make it 1, that's its maximum value, it won't be transparent at all. So if we look at the chart now, you can see that's a lot darker. And there's the Google colors in their full glory. Another thing you can do is to use these ramps. Now when you use a color ramp, what it means is that it'll calculate or interpolate along the distance between these two colors that I happen to have chosen, and it will assign color based on the difference between the item that's being colored in and how far away it is from the beginning of the ramp. So I'm using the ramp position. The ramp position is the order in which they appear in the chart. So the ones at the beginning will be bluish, and the ones at the end will be orangish. So you can see how we go from blue through purple right through to orange. The other ramp that's available is ramp value. So instead of using the position of the item on the chart, we're going to use its value. In other words, this volume column. So now the ones that have got the higher volumes are orange, and the ones that have got the lower volumes are bluish. Now you'll notice that I've been making some changes and flipping back and forwards between chart and settings. We haven't actually applied these settings yet because you're able to have a preview to see if you like them. If you don't like them, you can go back. If you like them, you can apply. So I've now applied them. We can look at the nodes now. So this pad angle between nodes is this space here between the nodes. So if I make that maybe a bigger number, let's make it something ridiculous like 0.1. And now the chart shows that these are further apart. The thickness of the arc, that's how wide this piece here is. So let's make it bigger. And that's what the chart looks like now. You can see we've got big spaces here. And the chart at the moment is just in the order, the natural order that it happens to find the data. We can change that. We can say we're going to sort it ascending, and the chart starts small and then gets big. So if you were to use that in conjunction with the ramp coloring, yeah, we're using ramp value. So since we've sorted it in that order, we'll expect the chart to go from bluish to orange, which it does. As you can see, it goes from blue round through orange. I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward. You're just able to change the colors and other things to do with the labeling. So now we've got white text, which is probably required if you're using a high opacity type of a chart. So at some point you'll want to embed this chart in your sheet. Go back to the chart and insert it. And it'll insert it wherever the cursor happens to be. So if you wanted to change the scaling of this chart, we can go here. Now right now, that's its width. We can make it smaller. And the font size, of course, is whatever it is. The margin is this space here. So let's do that. Get rid of the original one. Go back to the chart and insert that again. And this time we've got a smaller chart. Now it's possible, I suppose, you'll want to color in the frame color. In other words, the space around the image. Let's make it yellow. And that's what we get. And you might even want to make that transparent. So now you can see the grid lines in the middle of the image there. Now you might like those settings a lot. You might want to save them. So you can save, there's various savings that you can do. So if I save it like this, it's going to apply that format to every chart that I create in this document. So if we save it, so you can see that it's remembered the setting from the last time. Another thing we can do is we can save it for future use in all my documents. That means that any file I open in the future using this add-on will apply those settings. And then of course we can get rid of that if we want. So now it doesn't have any saved settings. So if I close the add-on, open it up again, then this time it will just use the standard settings for the app. Speaking of which, if we go to reset, we can set it back to any one of these conditions if we've been playing around with settings and want to get back to where we were. So let's change something. First of all, we'll go to appearance and change the color scheme to something else. So it now looks like this. I can reset it to either how it was when I opened the add-on or just the standard for the app. So let's do that and apply that, and then go back to the chart and we can see we're back to the default settings for the app. So plenty of things you can do with settings as well. Now you may want to customize the data. So normally it's going to detect where the data is coming from. But if you have a special type of a format, you can change I won't bother doing it, but you can change where the data is coming from and the purpose of each of these columns. Normally it's going to look at the whole sheet to get its data from, but if you want, you can just take it from a selected range. So I could just maybe take that, and now the chart is going to just show a piece of the data rather than the whole thing. So we can go back and put it back to the whole sheet, and then the chart reverts to how it would be for the entire data. So finally, we're going to look at how you might be able to use this to embed your chart in a website. So if we go to Get, you'll see a bunch of code here. So if we copy that, I can start making a website. So let's say that this is my chart. And then I take that code that I've copied and just copy it in here. Then there we have it, the code in a website. So very useful for embedding images into your own website without having to bother with hosting images anywhere. So that's the Chord Snip add-on. I haven't covered all the capabilities here, but you're welcome to download it, try it out. You'll find more about this add-on at the address on the screen. And if you like this kind of stuff, then I do have a book out and also a video training course. Now my software is always open source, so if you visit the link you're seeing there, you'll be able to download it from GitHub if you feel so inclined, and you can play around with it and make your own add-ons.